Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Bender. I'm the president of the Minneapolis City Council. Welcome to City Hall. Often before our official business, we begin with special presentations, and this morning it's an honor to be here to recognize October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month and October 11th as Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day. This issue is very personal for me. I am a breast cancer survivor, diagnosed 9 years ago when I was pregnant with my first child, who's now 8 years old, a thriving third grader with a little sister. So it's often, a mixed month for us survivors where we get to celebrate survival, but also mourn the friends that we've lost and see how much farther we have to go with research and access to healthcare. So I'm so happy to be joined by our friends from the American Cancer Society and to present this resolution today. So I'll read the resolution and then turn it over to Emily and Amy to speak about their work and an event coming up. Thank you. So this is recognizing October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month and October 11th as Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day. Whereas there are more than 3.5 million women in the United States living with a history of invasive breast cancer, and whereas this year 4,700 women in Minnesota are expected to be diagnosed with breast cancer and 640 to die from the disease, and whereas breast cancer ranks as the second cause of cancer death in women, and whereas breast cancer screening has been found to reduce breast cancer mortality, and when breast cancers are detected at an early stage, survival is 99%. And whereas since 2015, approximately 72% of Minnesota women ages 40 and up have received a mammogram in the previous 2 years. And whereas only 30% of uninsured women in Minnesota received a mammogram in 2015. And whereas the uninsured, underinsured, and underserved are least likely to get screening for breast cancer, which means they are more likely to be diagnosed at a late stage when chances of survival drop to 24%. And whereas in Minnesota, non-Hispanic white women are at the greatest risk of being diagnosed with breast cancer, but African American women are at the greatest risk of dying of breast cancer. And whereas women ages 15 to 54 die more frequently from breast cancer than any other cancer, and African American women under the age of 35 die from breast cancer at 3 times the rate of white women. And whereas the federal government has invested more than $1.8 billion in breast cancer research since 2010, leading to the discovery of life-extending drugs, and whereas there is no cure for breast cancer. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and the city council do hereby declare October 2019 to be Breast Cancer Awareness Month and October 11th, 2019 as Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day in the city of Minneapolis. Thank you. And I want to highlight that we always include Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day because often October becomes a celebration of survival, but it's really important to remember the women who are fighting a disease that has no cure and those that we have lost. And I really want to thank, including many friends, thank you. I really want to thank the American Cancer Society because they fight so hard for both the screening that we need to make sure that all women have the health care that they deserve, regardless of income, regardless of race and ethnicity, where we see these staggering racial disparities. And for the research that leads to life-saving, life-extending drugs, including one that I benefited from that was only available a few years before I was diagnosed, and that doubled my chances of survival. And it just means a lot to all of us. So thank you.
Thank you.
I don't usually get this.
That's okay. It's a safe space. Thank you, President Bender, so much for sharing your story. My name's Emily Myatt. I'm the Government Relations Director for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. We're the advocacy affiliate of the American Cancer Society. Our work is to empower folks to share their stories with decision makers like the city of Minneapolis, like representatives in St. Paul and in DC, to fight to make sure that everybody has access to breast cancer screenings, like you were saying, regardless of income, race, ethnicity, where you live in the state of Minnesota. everybody should have access to this life-saving medications, life-saving screenings. We advocate for research funding at the federal level. And I want to thank the city of Minneapolis for passing policies that prevent cancer. And so we're very grateful for this, to partner with the city of Minneapolis, for President Bender, for her leadership on this. And so thank you for being a champion for patients and survivors in Minnesota.
Thank you.
All right, my name is Amy Countryman, and I'm a Community Development Manager at the American Cancer Society, and I have the pleasure of being the manager for our Making Strides Against Breast Cancer event coming up at the end of the month. And as you mentioned, I mean, it really is an opportunity for celebration, for survivorship, but it's also an opportunity to remember those we've lost, to remember that our fight is not over, and to really just have that community for those that are able to join us. We're going to have fun activities, bring your kids, all that kind of good stuff. But it really is just a great opportunity to have that supportive sisterhood, and to also remember, you know, we always talk about breast cancer in women, but breast cancer is possible in men as well, and we just need to recognize that, but know that the work that we're doing at the American Cancer Society is supporting all of those whose lives are affected by breast cancer. So on behalf of all those affected by breast cancer, and on behalf of our American Cancer Society staff, we just say thank you.
Thank you all so much for
One more. 1, 2, 3. Yes.
All right, good morning again. My name is Lisa Bender. I'm the president of the Minneapolis City Council. I'll call this regular meeting of the City Council to order for October 11th and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Kano.
Here.
Reich. Here. Fletcher. Here. Jenkins is absent. Schrader. Here. Warsami.
Present.
Cunningham. Present. Ellison is absent. Goodman.
Present.
Johnson.
Here.
Palmisano.
Present.
Gordon. Here. President Bender.
Here.
There are 11 members present.
I'll note that Council Vice President Jenkins and Councilmember Ellison are both representing the city in a national forum, each of them in separate capacities, and we thank them for doing that. Now I messed up my computer, which was working. Okay. All right, so we have a quorum for today's meeting. The agenda for today's meeting is before us. Councilmember Cunningham has before you a motion to amend the agenda to add 2 notices under the order of notice of ordinance introductions to Title 15 and Title 1 related to the prohibition of conversion therapy. Is there a second for that amendment?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That carries, and the agenda has been amended. Are there any other amendments from council members? I don't see any. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. That carries, and the agenda is adopted as amended. Next, we have the minutes from our September 29th meeting for acceptance. May I have a motion for those minutes?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. That carries, and those are adopted. Finally, I'll entertain a motion to refer any petitions, communications, and reports to the proper committees for the next cycle. May I have that motion?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. That carries, and those referrals are made. Next order of business is reports from our standing committees. We've had a brief cycle with only 5 of our standing committees bringing forward reports today. So we'll start with the report from the Economic Development and Regulatory Services Committee presented by the chair, Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. The Economic Development and Regulatory Services Committee is bringing 112 items forward for approval this morning. Actually, there are 112 items being approved under item number 2. So I just want folks to know there's a lot going on in terms of renewing liquor licenses. There are 6 items total. Item number 3 is a new application. Item number 2 are the 112 liquor license approvals. You can flip all the way about 5 pages later. Item 4 is the gambling license approvals, and 5 are the renewals. 6 are business license operating conditions, and that is the agenda for EDRS. I will move all items for approval this morning.
Chair Goodman has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
That carries and the report is adopted. Next, we have the report of the Housing Policy and Development Committee given by the chair, Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much, President Bender. The Housing Policy and Development Committee is only bringing, let's just double check, only 4 items forward for approval. The first is a passage of a resolution approving the land sale at 822 Elwood Avenue. Second item is approving the financing for the Gateway Northeast project. That's at 2435 Marshall Street. Third is approving a 3-year lease renewal for city-owned properties at 1913 and 1919 Columbus Avenue. And the fourth item is receiving a report from our anti-displacement policy network. That's what the committee did, but then also passing a staff direction to continue researching the recommendations of that report. I'll move all items forward for approval.
Councilmember Gordon has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham. Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
That carries and those items are adopted. The next report is from our Public Health, Environment, Civil Rights, and Engagement Committee, presented by the chair, Councilmember Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam President. The Public Health, Environment, Civil Rights, and Engagement Committee is bringing forward 8 items for approval today. The first is the appointment to the Community Environmental Advisory Commission. Item number 2 is authorizing the submittal of a grant application to the Minnesota Department of Health for targeted opioid treatment and prevention and recovery services. Item number 3 is authorizing the submittal of a grant application to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation for the Cross-Sector Innovation Initiative. Item number 4 is accepting a grant from the Minnesota Department of Health for a grant for the Safer Sex Intervention Project. Item number 5 is accepting a grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation for community collaboration learning. Item number 6 is authorizing a contract with We Got Sports and More in the amount of $6,000 from the 2019 Blueprint Approved Institute. Item number 7 is authorizing a mutual confidentiality agreement with TSI Incorporated. And item number 8 is a contract amendment with Centro de Trabajadores, CETUL, for proactive labor standards outreach and vulnerable worker liaison services. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I move approval of all 8 items.
Councilmember Cunningham has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
That carries and the report is adopted. Next, we have the report from the Transportation and Public Works Committee, presented by the chair, Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee forwards 10 items today. Item 1 is the 27th Avenue North Street Reconstruction Project, approval, assessment, and areaway abandonment. 2 is the 2019 Sanitary Sewer Service Availability Charges. 3 is the uniform assessment rates for establishing the 2020 rates. 4 is the cooperative agreement with the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization for green infrastructure and safe routes to school improvements at Edison High School. 5 is the contract with various suppliers for 2020-2023 Public Works Consulting Pool. 6 is a temporary construction easement agreement with the University of Minnesota for the 10th Avenue Southeast River Bridge project. Item 7 is the assignment of contract of William Towing Incorporated for Zone 6 Public Towing Services. 8 is the bid for Ramp A waterproofing and structural repairs, 2019 project. 9 is the bid for the 11th and Marquette Area Skyway Carpet Replacement Project. And 10 is accepting the low bid for 20-inch drain line valve for the Columbia Heights filter plant. Madam President, I move all items as submitted.
Councilmember Reich has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
That carries and the report is adopted. Finally, we have the report from our Ways and Means Committee presented by the Chair, Councilmember Warsami.
Thank you, Madam President. The Ways and Means Committee brings forth 10 items for approval today. Item number 1 is a legal settlement. This is a workers' compensation claim of James Hart. Item number 2 is a legal settlement. And this is another workers' compensation claim of Randall Miller. Item number 3 is a legal settlement. This is a personal injury claim of Ira Broadway. Item number 4 is a contract amendment with Restorative Justice Community Action for Restorative Justice Services. Item number 5 is a grant from the joint agencies for prosecutorial services to crime victims. Item number 6 is a contract amendment for bond counsel services. Item number 7 is a Mississippi Watershed Management Organization grant for enhanced storm water treatment at the Eastside Storage and Maintenance Facility. Item number 8 is a bid for the 2019 landscape renovation project. Item number 9 is a Minnesota Department of Public Safety grant for traffic enforcement. And the final item is a contract with Regents of Minnesota Center for Urban and Regional Affairs for research and program development for the Neighborhoods 2020 plan. And I move approval of all 10 items.
Councilmember Warsami has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
That carries and the report is adopted. The next order of business is reports from special committees, and we have a report from the Executive Committee that will be presented by Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam President. The Executive Committee brings forward one item today, a collective bargaining agreement with the Stationary Engineers Unit. I'll go ahead and move that item.
Councilmember Johnson has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
That carries, and the item will be referred to the Ways and Means Committee in the next cycle. The next order of business is the notice of ordinance introductions. This morning we have 2 items on the listed agenda and the third item added to the amended agenda. First, Councilmember Johnson gives notice of intent to introduce at the next regular meeting the subject matter of an ordinance to amend the food code to provide for recycling and/or organics management system at public events and markets to exempt certain food establishments from requirements for front-of-house recycling and/or organics collection. This is cited as the Green to Go ordinance. Second, Councilmembers Cunningham and Ellison give notice of intent to introduce at the next regular meeting the subject matter of an ordinance to amend the Housing Code to modify the composition of Emergency Violation Hearing Board and to adopt the rules for hearings that are related to emergency housing repairs. Third, Councilmembers Cunningham and Jenkins give notice of intent to introduce at the next regular meeting the subject matter of ordinances amending the code related to offenses miscellaneous, to add a new chapter to prohibit conversion or reparative therapy, and in general to amend provisions related to personnel authorized to issue citations. Are there any questions on any of those notices? Seeing none, those notices are given and no further action is required. We have one item on the introduction and referral calendar today. Pursuant to notice given at the last regular meeting, Councilmember Reich moves to introduce, give first reading to, and refer to the Transportation and Public Works Committee the subject matter of an ordinance proposing to amend the traffic code by adding a new section on the process for establishing speed limits for city streets. Are there any questions or comments from council members? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That carries and the ordinance is referred to the TPW committee in the next cycle. The next order of business is resolutions, and we have the honorary resolution declaring October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That carries, and the resolution is adopted. The next order of business is motions, and we have 2 motions listed on the agenda. First, a motion by Councilmembers Gordon and Johnson to direct the city clerk to modify the original notice and ordinance introduction given at the meeting on February 9th, 2018, related to an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Title 2, Chapter 14 of the Code to establish procedures for setting the compensation levels for mayor and city council members. Further, that motion is to refer the matter to the Ways and Means Committee in the next cycle for the setting of a public hearing on the ordinance. The summary of the proposal has been added to the LIMS file for details. Are there any questions or comments from council members on that? Seeing none, Councilmember Gordon.
I just wanted to be clear that we identified the incorrect chapter in our original introduction, so that's the only change we're making for this. Otherwise, it's proceeding along its normal path.
Thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That carries, and the motion is adopted. The clerk is directed to correct the code citation, and the matter is referred to the Ways and Means Committee in the next cycle. Second, Vice President Jenkins and Councilmember Cunningham have submitted a motion directing the clerk to bring forward at the next meeting of the Committee of the Whole an amended 2020 City Council and Committees calendar for ratification and to give notice of the same under the rules. With the Vice President absent, I'll ask the Vice Chair, Councilmember Cunningham, to make that motion.
Thank you, Madam President. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And any questions or comments from council members? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. That carries, and the motion is adopted. The amended 2020 calendar will come before the Committee of the Whole at its next regular meeting in the next cycle. Finally, we have the order of announcements. Are there any announcements from council members? Councilmember Schrader.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to alert all of my colleagues that we have a special guest today. We have Councilmember Natalie Archibong from Atlanta visiting today just to learn a little bit more about zoning code, well, actually just a code enforcement. And it is something that personally just really appreciate her visit, especially in light of all the events of yesterday. It's a good reminder that things can happen here in Minneapolis that can't happen in other parts of the country. And I'm really proud of the work we do. And I think it's also a good reminder that we've got some places we still have to keep going. So I hope we all take the opportunity to meet the council member.
Thank you. Any other announcements today? I don't see any. So with that, we have concluded the business before the City Council today. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That carries. We are adjourned. Have a great weekend.